Hello, my name is Amber and welcome to my creative space. Today I'm going to be doing a crochet update. Let's call this crochet update for November. My current plan is to do these about once a month. So, my biggest news on the crochet front is I finished my shawl. Here it is in all of its glory. I did end up adding 2 feathers, one on either side. Well, it's not one on either side, but 2 feathers to it. So instead of 14 feathers, it ended up being 16 feathers. And I did end up, what do you call it? Weaving the sides together. So it's not separated. It's just one big thing I can just put on my head and go. I don't have to manage it and control it and, deal with figuring things out and monitoring how it's fitting on me. So I will insert a picture of me wearing it here so you can see the length that goes down my arms, and the coverage. I'm imagining that this will be a good option for spring / going into summer. Just a light, just a little bit of something to, add some warmth. And I say that time period just because of the colors. If I had done it in a different color, then maybe I would use it for fall. But that is my Plumeria Feather Capelet by Yarn Andy, and I'm very pleased with it. Like I had said in the previous videos, it could have been a different size if I could have got the right hook, because I ended up not using all the yarn I bought for it, and I bought the yarn according to her recommendations on the pattern. And I really think it just has to do with my needle was smaller than it should have been, but like I said, it's the only needle I had that was long enough for the project, and I couldn't easily find one that was long enough and the right size. So I'm excited to add this to my wardrobe and enjoy it in the future. Next on the list of projects I've started and finished in this time period was I got inspired to make a ornament for this year, and so I looked up 2 tutorials that I'll have linked below. I'll have the capelet linked below as well. And this is based on the verse from Psalms 91 talking about being covered by the wings of the Father and Him protecting us, and how His promises are can't remember it exactly, but the whole concept of taking refuge with the Father and being covered by His wings has been very important to me over this last several years, especially in times of high anxiety. That's one of the ways I can find peace, is imagining being covered by His wings and being next to His heart. So the ornament I came up with was a pair of wings, and then in the center I have a little heart to represent me, my heart being next to His heart. So this is how they turned out. So I think they're pretty and cute. This was definitely an exercise in very small crochet for me. I was using this needle. It's so tiny. It's so little. And I'm trying to see. It says 2 1/4 millimeter. So tiny for me. And this red one it's basically thread, crocheting with thread, and it's kind of slippy, and so that was a little bit challenging. I think I did a total of 7 of them, and the nice thing is they work up quickly. In one evening I could start one and end one and finish it, no problem. I want to say maybe 30 minutes to an hour. And it took a little bit of trial error to find the wing pattern that I liked. There's several of them out there, but this is just the shape that I ended up liking the most. And like I said, I did 7 of them, and I did some in a different yarn. It was a little bit bigger, and it just became large and floppy. So, and I also found that the size of the wings could drastically change according to my tension and how I was holding. That's kind of obvious, but you really see it really obviously when you're working this small. There was one time I finished one wing and started the other one. I was like, it's drastically different, but I'm doing the same stitches, and I realized it all had to do with the stitch count. So the first one I was crazy tight on, so in order to have it matching, I had to do crazy tight on the next one. But anywho, all wings and hearts are different, so that's why I tell myself it's handmade and it's going to look handmade. So that was exciting and enjoyable little project too. One challenge I am having with crochet is I don't need any more blankets. Our house is blanketed up. We don't need any more blankets for the beds. We don't need any blankets for the couches. So trying to find projects that I can work on that are actually truly useful and truly helpful. It's like we'll see if I wear a capelet. I want to wear a capelet because I made it and it's pretty, but will I get in the habit of wearing it? I don't know. So even though there's another cape shawl idea that I really want to do, I'm kind of hesitant to invest in it and pay for the pattern and get the yarn and do it, and then find out that I actually don't use it. So coming up with the ornament idea was exciting because I'm like, that is definitely useful. It's giftable, it's small, it's a fun project to start and finish. So in addition to those two, I have 3 ongoing projects. Well, technically 4, but we'll get into that. So this next one is a bit cumbersome at the moment. It's just rather long. It keeps on going, and it's going to be going even more because on this other side I have this strip of fabric to attach to it. So my question is, can you guess what this is going to be? Thoughts? It goes skinny, and then there's increases, and then it's steady, and then decreases, and I'm going down to skinny again to do another skinny thing. So this came from I want to crochet, but I don't know what to crochet. What's the purpose of it? When it's getting colder here, and we have found that a Yorkie does not appreciate cold things. He wants to be in a sweater, and he wants to be huddled up somewhere, and he's just generally wanting to be cuddly. So one evening when he was restless and couldn't find a comfortable place to be, I stuffed him in my sweater. I never thought I'd be that kind of person to have a small dog stuffed in their sweater. But he actually was content and settled down and was still and just was happy. Now, that sweater's old, and in the process of having it in there, it busted the zipper, and the zipper came undone. And it got me thinking, well, maybe I should be that weird person who has a dog in a purse. And I went on Amazon and went on this rabbit trail looking at all sorts of dog carriers and everything. And they are very proud of their dog carriers. Like $40 to $50 is on the low end of things. So I was like, well, it's Christmas time. Maybe it's a wish list item. I don't know how much it'll be used. And so I put it on there, and West made a random comment of, why don't you crochet one? So here I am crocheting a dog carrier. And I'm using yarn from my stash. That being said, I did just order 2 skeins of yarn because this particular yarn is very specific, and I'm running out of it. I'm going to use up all of what I have. But it's this type of yarn that looks like shoelaces. I think recently it's become popular with the amiguri, however you say that, community, where they're making, little animals out of it and such. But it's the Brene Maker, and this is the original. It used to be called Home Deck, and now when I was searching to buy it, it's just Brene Maker is the yarn. So I had got a lot of this yarn to make a blanket for my cousin. So in terms of making things with this yarn, I think it's really good because it'll never like snag on itself or create those become one sort of issues. It's a unique yarn. You can't split it. Well, you can't easily split it. It's just a unique yarn. And so when I was thinking about a dog carrier and his very little paws and his very little nails going through things or catching things, I'm like, this is probably my best bet to use this kind of yarn. So I've successfully using up the yarn that I have. And so here we have a strap, and then where it swells, that's going to be the side of the pouch. And where it's consistent in size for like that long, that's going to be the bottom of the pouch. And then works its way back up the other side of the pouch. And then I'm going to work on the strap going up. It's definitely not a designer. The color scheme is not planned out and beautiful and everything, but I really imagine myself just using this around the house. You know, if he has a restless day, just pop him in the pouch and do my stuff around the house. So where I'm going to need more yarn is, so as I was saying, you have the sides of the pouch, you have the bottom of the pouch, and so now I'm going to be doing the front and back of the pouch in panels. And I will be pulling on my experience with entrelace to crochet and connect as I go to make the sides. This particular teal, well, I ordered a yarn called teal. This is not called teal. This is called aqua. So their color options were pretty limited, but I thought the only one they listed that looks like it might be worth trying is the teal color, and my understanding is it's probably going to be a little bit darker than this color. So that is my active project that is next to the chair that I'm working on when I sit down and just want to grab something to work on. So that's that one. All right, at the end of the last video I mentioned I was dabbling and knitting. So here's my dabbling. It hasn't changed. It's the same thing. It's just there if I get curious and want to try again. So that is what I'm saying. I technically have 4 projects, but this isn't really a project because it's not going anywhere. It doesn't really have a purpose other than me just playing around. So that is the 4th. So in the previous video, I mentioned I had a scarf I was making out of this fabric, this yarn, and I was probably going to pull it out and scrap it because it was a project I started just to purely use this up, and it didn't really have any other purpose. And projects for that purpose are very hard for me to pursue and continue and maintain. So I did end up pulling it out. And in exploring new things and new techniques and new stitches and everything, I ran across this lady who has developed I'd say it's a variation of Tunisian crochet, where you're using 2 crochet needles, and I wanted to try it out. And the challenge with this is trying to, once you make it, seeing the pattern of the stitches is incredibly difficult. And so if you have anything where you're working into your previous stitches in a certain way, it's hard to do because of the lumps and the bumps and the color and everything. And I have another yarn similar to this in texture. It's a completely different color scheme. It's white, pink, and brown. That's also has the same problem, is that once you crochet it, it becomes one solid thing and you can't figure out where your stitches are. And I've always had problems going, how do I use this and what do I make with it? Well, with this 2-needle technique, you are literally just working on the loops that are on your needle that you can clearly see, and that's about it. I don't know how to really describe it, but in playing around and trying out the technique, I made some fabric, and then I continued making some fabric. And now I have the scarf restarted and remade, and my intention is to just use up the rest of this and have this be one scarf. And in the process of working on this, I've been inspired to give it as a gift, and so now it actually has a purpose and has a reason for happening other than just using up the yarn and learning a new technique. So I'm much more motivated to work on this and finish it probably in the next couple weeks, because I want to give it as a gift, I believe, on the 16th or the 18th of December. So that being said, I was also in looking through my stash and, you know, pulling out the yarn for the dog thing and revisiting this one as a scarf. I ran across this yarn, and I think originally I had got it for a baby blanket, and it's been in my stash for a very long time, just sitting there. And I looked at it and said, this makes me think of a delicate winter scarf or spring scarf. Just the color of it and the weight of it. And so I started working on some fabric. And I had to restart this several times because I had the same issue that once I started stitching, it was hard to see what the stitches were. And so I had to, like I said, restart it several times to make it light enough, flexible enough, and visible enough to be working with. So this is a scarf with no particular purpose or reason. So once again, it becomes the one I work on the least because of that. I'm assuming it'll eventually become a gift for somebody else because I don't see myself using this. I have a lot of scarves myself that I don't use. There's maybe 2 that I consistently use. I am a creature of habit. If you saw on the other channel, I posted a wardrobe changeover, and I was mentioning on there, I'm a creature of habit, and I like my wardrobe to be simple and straightforward and not complicated. I don't like spending a lot of time picking out and developing outfits. So when it comes to accessories, they tend to be used a lot less for me. But I think this is a good use for this yarn, and I like it. I believe this is the problem with not being inspired to work on it, because you forget what you were doing. I believe this is a double crochet in Tunisian crochet, because that's what actually started me. I was trying to find a stitch to work with this yarn. I was like, I need something a little bit taller, and I was still thinking about that joined double crochet I'd found last time. So I'm pretty sure it's a double crochet in Tunisian crochet. So those are my 4 ongoing projects at the moment. I would expect by the next video I will have probably finished the dog carrier and probably finished hopefully finished this blue scarf, since it's supposed to be a gift. And who knows what I'll get up to next. I don't know. Like I said, I had assumed that I'm going to start the next Capelet by Yarn Andy, but just kind of hesitant because I'm like, am I going to use this one? And projects cost money, and I don't want to just be spinning my wheels. So maybe I will find other things to do with my current stash before jumping into a new project. I don't know. That is the process of crochet for me, is just get stuck in on a project and go from there and see where inspiration takes you. So I would really, really like it if you would post in the comments if ideas for crochet projects that aren't blankets, mainly aren't blankets and just useful things. You know, I don't see myself, I don't know. Maybe I will get into selling things. I don't know. At the moment, I'm not inspired to do that. So it's, you know, having small things I can start and finish, and then they just multiply and I have a bunch of them doesn't seem appealing. Whereas like the ornament was appealing because, oh, this is a simple gift that's actually useful. Um, so maybe do you have any ideas for Valentine's crocheted gifts, since that's coming up? Or Easter crocheted gifts? I don't know. But I would love to hear any thoughts or opinions you might have about things to do with crochet other than blankets. And maybe in all of your comments and suggestions, I might find some inspiration for my next projects after this. I don't know. In addition to that, I would love to know what projects you're working on and where you're finding your inspiration, and if you're able, you know, how much are you using your stash or buying new yarn? Also, would love to know where you're buying yarn now that Joanne's gone. Yes, I have gone to Michael's and I am unimpressed. I'm missing the several aisles of yarn that Joanne's used to have. But any sort of yarn resources, I'd love to hear below. You know, obviously there's Michael's, there's Hobby Lobby's, there's Amazon. Somebody mentioned a store I can't pronounce, Hirschisha something other. I can't say it, but I think it's a big German name. So, and like for the sampler blanket, I ended up ordering directly from Yarnspirations, which evidently is maybe Canadian based. I'm not sure. So those are the resources I have, but like I said, I still miss being able to just walk down aisles and look at a bunch of yarn and make sure the colors are right and all that fun stuff. So I'm sure I'm not the only person missing the ability to walk into Joann's. So until next time, feel free to like and subscribe, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye!